Jasper, yeah, please. How do you pronounce your last name, by the way?
Degenaars. It has a Dutch g, so like it's anything that comes close to it. I'm cool with it.
Well, Dagny's ain't it. That's what I was.
Can I call you Jasper D?
JD.
Like it. So yeah, Jasper, welcome to Psilocybin Says.
Thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Welcome.
So tell our audience a little bit about who you are.
Wow, a little bit. Sweet. Well, as you probably heard by the pronunciation of my last name, I'm from the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, you can buy psilocybin containing truffles these days legally, and that's where I started. Like, I guess I just had a very regular upbringing. I was very depressed in my teenage years. It's very solitude, like played a lot of video games. And then when I turned 18, my friend just gave me some of these truffles. And I was like, wow, I was very curious and I was very open-minded to all the things. And I only had a little bit, but I had like the best day ever. And like, I felt happy and like content and felt love for life for the first time. And I was like, this is some good stuff. And then I actually got really sick and separated from that friend group because of their toxic behavior in many ways. And I found a new friend group and they never tried truffles. And I was like, oh, let's just buy some in the store and like go do truffles in the park and like have a good time and go into supermarkets and look at all the crazy colors. And definitely did not understand set and setting. Definitely did not understand like the healing properties of it, but like just from recreational use and having fun in like an environment that we didn't feel like we were doing something bad. It's just something you buy in the store. Like I remember very vividly my friend for the first time in a supermarket, just like laughing on the floor, looking at, I think it was dishwashing soap or something. And this lady just walked by. It's like, all right. And like, I was just like, yeah, we just had some truffles. And she's like, okay. And went on with her day, and that's the kind of I want everybody to have. And, my truffles were quite expensive. They're like $15 for like a journey. And I heard from a friend that you can get these grow kits, and for $40 you can get a lot of mushrooms. And I was actually very lucky. I bought the biggest one, and I got like 3 flushes. And I think I got something like 200, 300 dried grams that I grew under my bed in my parents' house because I still didn't feel like, oh yeah, I want my parents to know I'm taking all these magic mushrooms all the time. But like just seeing that process was so fascinating to me. And I kind of like went away from that a little bit. I found some other psychedelics and substances and I was just experimenting, but like the mushrooms definitely came more on my path. And when I got a really big download when I was 20 to quit my sales manager position where I was making a lot of money and drinking a lot of alcohol and taking a lot of MDMA and going to a lot of parties, I went to travel the world and I ended up in Southeast Asia. And I was in Thailand and I saw like this mushroom growing from what was told me it was elephant dung. And I was like, I know this mushroom, dudes. I know this mushroom. And it was Psilocybin Says. And then I just spent like my time in Asia foraging because they grow all year round of water buffalo dung, of elephant dung, basically all the 4-legged, not carnivores, but like herbivore mammals that live around there. And same for Australia. But like I was traveling, so I couldn't get deeper into this cultivation aspect, but I was fascinated. So I had a lot of time. So I read a lot of books and I was just waiting for that time to actually get that knowledge into practice. And then in Oaxaca, Mexico, several years later, I traveled the world for like 5-6 years. I heard about the Fungi Academy, which already was in existence before I joined. And I wanted to be at Lake Atitlan because somebody I met on my travels was like, you got to go here. There's a really good community. And so I ended up from San Mateo, which is next to, oh my God, completely blanked on the most famous name of the Oaxacan mountains. But San Mateo is one of those towns where the Mazatec people are residing, and you find a lot of psilocybe cyanescence during the rainy season. So a mushroom hub, I found about this other mushroom hub of Fungi Academy, and I arrived, I sent an email, and I arrived, and I got locked out of my bank account and my PayPal because, okay, again, like the mushrooms have been this like thread because I smuggled this chocolate from the United States into Mexico, and I was in Mexico couch surfing with these 2 girls, and they had like the tiny pet pig, and they told me not to put any food on the ground or in a bag or something. I forgot about this mushroom chocolate that was right next to my bank card. And like this, we were having dinner and I just heard this noise coming from the room I was staying in. I was like, everything connected. And I was like, shit. So this pig was just like mauling on this little bag that I had. And I was like, oh no, no way. And I got the pig away. It didn't get to the mushroom chocolate because the bag was, I guess, tough enough. So it was just smushed, but it broke my bank card with the chip right in half. And like, I just had to get to a friend's place in Mazunte, Mexico, which is also in Oaxaca, and like to PayPal her some money. So I had some cash. But then I got to Guatemala and I got locked out of everything. And then I was like forced to stay at Fungi Academy. And it was right after some of the founder mentors actually just left. Sylvan and Tenel just left a couple of weeks before. And the project was going through quite a tough time. And I got this really big download again. I was like, I think I need to be here for a while. And I just spend a lot of time on the mountain, like 60 hours a week, just getting more into the aspects of mushroom cultivation that I was not super familiar with, like working in sterile environments. And I had the toughest learning conditions because there was this lab, the lab that was under the ground, and it was rainy season. So water was seeping in and mold was everywhere. Everything was contaminated consistently, but I managed to have some success. And a lot of people came to Fungi Academy, and Oliver, one of our latest ancestors, he just was kind of half in and out of the project because he had some other ideas that he wanted to develop. So everybody that came to Fungi Academy, like they wanted to learn to grow mushrooms, like, well, I'm learning myself, but I'll teach you. And I found that like teaching is the best way to actually get really good at something. And I was teaching classes every week, and within no time, when Oliver's other project fell through, we were kind of just running Fungi Academy together. And I still can't believe it's been almost 3 years, but here we are. And unfortunately, Oliver is no longer with us. So I'd love to honor this conversation and like to him, because without him, Fungi Academy would never be in existence. And the courses that we've created would have never been in existence. The lives we changed with like we're probably not as changed. And we owe everything to him, and we do everything we still do today in honor of him. And here we are. And suddenly I'm the face of a project I didn't start. And yeah, like I found my passion and my purpose in life through mushrooms and through Oliver and like the trust he had in me. So I think that's a pretty good download on who Jasper Degenaars is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Oliver, just to really fully commemorate him? I never had the fortune of speaking with him. I kind of followed him from afar for a while there as he was setting up Fungi Academy, and we had some kind of conversations through other people basically. But I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about him and how he kind of where he got this vision from and how it came to be.
So just like myself, Oliver started growing mushrooms by buying grow kits from the Netherlands, and he would drive all the way from Estonia, which is it's about far away. It's like a good it's 1,500 kilometers, I think, more or less. So that's about 1,000 miles.
Okay.
He would drive that to pick up the boxes, and then he would drive back. And like he got fascinated by that growth. And then on the internet, he was doing that like at home a lot and like sharing that. And he was also a world traveler. So he also spent a lot of time in Australia and India and Southeast Asia. And he always had this vision of like combining the beauty of the intentional communities that he found while in his travels, but focused around the sacred mushroom. And when he was actually at a rainbow gathering here in Guatemala, and he met the other founders, and like he kind of pitched that vision to them, but none of them had money. They had like, I think Oliver had like $600, and they used it to like rent this empty plot of land near the lake from a friend for like 4 months. And then they had tents, and then like they just built their first curriculum. And there was always like only from passion, because they didn't have money, and they came from the rainbow. So they just wanted to give everything away for free. And serendipitously, everything always worked in his favor. Like when they needed money, there was a group of people that wanted the first workshop, and they paid. And then they had this idea of doing like a school bus for like driving around Central America and teaching kids and other people about mushroom cultivation from this school bus. And a friend that he met that like they were begging on the streets and for water and food in Mexico. He ended up like suddenly making a lot of money, and he donated a lot of money to buy this school bus. And it was just all like this serendipitous ride. And because he would like just go, if he had like a hunch, he would just go. He wouldn't think, he would just do it, even if it would make him broke. He didn't think about, oh no, what if I don't have enough to support him? Because he had so much trust in the universe that like whatever he put his heart into would be rewarded in the long run. And that's, I think, is the best way to represent Oliver, because he would like try to like do so many things above what he was qualified to do or capable of doing, but he would learn. And that's like, we're both like really kids of the age of the internet, and anything that we wanted, we just like YouTube it, Google it, find some forums, and like learn all the things ourselves. And through that, he was able to manifest like Fungi Academy to be where we are at today. And I think that's a pretty good roundup of who Oliver was as a character. He was fiery and powerful, and that's why, like, in a way, he burned out fast. You know, some people just go so hard. Like one of our Mayan friends, who's a timekeeper, so one of the spiritual leaders in the community, he said like his candle just was burning so fast that it ended up burning very shortly. But like the legacy continues to give the rest of us is so worth that. And I always see like everybody is a flawed person, and Oliver was definitely one of them. And in his tragic early passing, he became more what he was about than what he represented. And I think that is the beauty we can like get out of this very tragic event that almost happened a year ago now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was about a year. Wasn't it Christmas Day?
Yeah, Christmas morning, man. We call him Reverse Jesus. Seju.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's such an inspirational story of somebody who really trusted the process. And I'm feeling really inspired by hearing that, just trusting that, you know, we're part of something so much greater than we oftentimes realize. And so if we can trust that we're all connected and that we're following our inspiration, then things will work out. So that's awesome.
And I really appreciate how, you know, you've come into this position and you've continued to point to Oliver. So many people, you know, could potentially, I don't know, make it about them. And I just really appreciate how you continue to point to the origin and a story, which is really important. You know, we do kind of culturally, it seems like everything is so short-lived that we tend to forget about the past. And I know it's only been a year, but still, that's, you know, the fact that you continue to speak so frequently of him in the work, I feel that is really important, and it speaks a lot to your own integrity. So a lot of respect there.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to ask, you know, we've already talked about kind of following intuition and the synchronicities and things just kind of being all connected. And let's just get in real deep here. Let's just get real deep around these kind of, you know, phenomena that we experience, particularly it seems like around mushrooms and psychedelics. And so I'd just love for you to start riffing on some of that, if you would.
Synchronicities and psychedelics, you mean?
Yeah, well, in life overall, but, you know, psilocybin seems to kind of potentiate these synchronicities, or I've been reading a lot about the awareness of synchronicity being more of a immersion in the subconscious. And it seems that psychedelics have a way of taking us right into that subconscious world. So, you know, maybe share some of your thoughts around what these kind of synchronicities and this interconnectedness implies, maybe.
It's actually something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently. And like one of the questions that I ask myself is it actually that the psychedelics induce more of these synchronicities, or is it like what you were saying, that subconsciously we're just more aware of them in these states, after these states, instead of I kind of got a little throat thing going on, so I might cough a couple times.
I'm good.
These synchronicities, like, I think we are just kind of blind to them in our default mode network states because we're so occupied with survival, and like not right now in our current day society, it looks very different than being afraid to be chased by a lion or a cheetah and like trying to have to climb trees to find fruit. But like that system is made for our survival, because if we were always so open to receive everything, it'd be very hard to survive. And I think that kind of is what psychedelics enable, right? Because they shut more parts of the brain down for us to create these patterns and these pathways in our brain that are more aware of actually what the things are that are surrounding us, like our natural world, our physical state, our consciousness, and the consciousness of others, and even the consciousness of like the trees that you see flying, waving behind me through the wind, and the consciousness of the winds. We're just more open to those situations. And I think there's really good ways that even without psychedelics, you can tap into those states of mind as well. But psychedelics definitely help. And we were just presented more with these choices, I see. And like, I think it has to do because we have an awareness, and I can get kind of woo-woo here, I hope, but like, I really believe in what people here call the higher self. And there is like, it's like a fictional idea, like the perfect shapes of Pythagoras, right? In reality, there's no such thing as a perfect triangle. It only exists in this ether mindset. And in this ether like situation, there's also a thing of ourselves that live the perfect life. They made all of the perfect choices we could make to live our life in the most happiness and abundance and all the things. We'll never get there. We'll always make mistakes as human, because that's like our imperfectionism makes us human. But sometimes in these moments, in these states, we can get these messages that like come from the gods, or like are just literally like, when I heard that I needed to go travel, that was literally, I heard a voice. I was on 2CB, also great. It's like, I was myself, but older. And it just like, I just didn't know what to do with life. And I just heard, you got to go travel. And I had a choice there, right? Wow. I could hear that voice, or I could like just trust. And I think those synchronicities, if we're open to them and like are able to put our ego aside and trust in these intuitions, then we walk the path of synchronicity, and the universe, life, God, whatever you want to call it, will give us rewards for choosing the path that is the best for us. Because if we choose to make the decisions that are best for us, they will also be best for our loved ones and the planet. And just being open to these synchronistic ideas or messages and being able to appreciate them, I think that's a really beautiful thing of the psychedelic state. But you can also get there with meditation and all these other really powerful practices. And that's kind of what I'm looking at as synchronicity right now, because that's, like just weird stuff happens all the time, but we have to be open to it. And we have to be able to filter through what is actually information and what's just static. And unfortunately, with what we call in history right now, the age of information, right? Like we're just so swamped that it's really hard for most of us to listen to the messages that are actually impactful, instead of this new fucking COVID variety, Omicron. I don't know how this is influencing my life. Occupied, you know?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, I'm curious for you, in this past year that it's been since Oliver's passed on, have you found yourself having to kind of put your ego aside and go with your intuition? I mean, this has been such a transition, I can imagine, in the last year.
Yeah, it was definitely pure focus and intuition. Like when he passed, like the main thing I was coming through is like, we can't have the mission die with him. And that was not an ego thing. It was just like, I wanted to carry on his legacy. And that was when I kind of became a workaholic and like lost connection to myself. And I was too occupied with that mindset that there was also like a fear in there, right? Like, oh shit, if I don't work hard, it's because I have to carry what we were carrying together alone now. That occupied me so much that like I forgot to also listen to other things and look after my own mental health and physical health, and that like I wouldn't say that was an ego response, more so than like that initial intuition, and then I got into this habit or like pattern of just only thinking about that, and that took me a while to break free from as well. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's like, because the ego is also a powerful tool that we have and that we can utilize to change the lives of others and change the lives of ourselves. And it's kind of a double-edged sword in many ways, because I don't believe that like we should completely get rid of the ego. We should embrace the good parts of the ego and the things that like make us do the things that we absolutely love to do. But the moment where we're doing something out of ego or for our own success or for our own like I think success, it might be the best word. Like I see this a lot in the, I don't like the word capitalism so much, because it like insinuates that you're like, oh, you're capitalizing off of other people. Well, that's such an ego thing, right? Like free market sounds a lot nicer in many ways. But like, that's what you're seeing a lot in this ultra capitalistic mindset. It's like, oh, it's me against the world. I need to, like, everybody else is just like blocking the road for my own success. And living in community, we see that when there's harmony in community and we're all able to like work together and not have that individual ego, but like what we sometimes call the oversoul of the mission, right? Because like, if we look at who we are, we're not individualistic creatures. We are pack creatures. So we were made to work and live together. And there's if you look at hunter-gatherer societies, there's not much room for thinking about the self, because the thought for the well-being of the pack or the group is more important than the well-being of the self. And that's something like I'm personally struggling with, because my mind goes really fast. I think my ego is also pretty strong. If anybody's into astrology, I'm Leo rising. So I come with like, oh, always is like, that's what I'm born with, right? And I see that as like my learning path. That's why I need to be in community, because I need to get checked on like, okay, there's more to it than that. I also like, and Dutch, and I'm like more direct than Americans are, but then also have a background as a sales manager where you have to have this strong ego to be able to hurt the group. And my main thing that I want to say with that is that like the moment that we can kind of separate from the ego and look more like how can we work more for the collective is when we can find balance in utilizing the ego for the collective, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, this is wonderful. The episode that's going to come out right before this one is one that Courtney and I talked entirely about the ego and, you know, the nature of ego death, if it's even a thing, what a healthy ego versus an unhealthy ego looks like. And so much of what you're saying is just kind of supporting the conversation that we had. I mean, this is who we are. We operate through these filters, and we should embrace them to a large extent, but it doesn't mean that we have to just like continue to overfeed and overindulge the ego. And I really love what you said about kind of success for the self versus success for the whole, or even the other, you know. Even in business, you know, this is a concept that in American capitalism, we grow up where it's like, you know, dog eat dog, the strongest survive. I mean, it's not just Americans around the world, but I think America is kind of, you know, a hyper example of it all. And I find myself having to really be reminded that no, it's actually cooperation and collaboration is how we really survive.
And that's the beautiful archetype of the mycelium and the fungi, right? That we can interpret into our own life. It's creating abundance for our environment. And if our environment is thriving, if there's lots of plants and lots of trees that are dying, the fungi will be thriving. So if we can create an environment around us of people that are happy and healthy, we don't have to be afraid of people breaking into our homes because they don't have enough. We don't have to be afraid of like going out on the street when somebody robbing us, because that's an act of desperation. I don't think anybody that's in a healthy, stable way, and like we use the framework of the Maslow pyramid of needs all the time, is like if housing, shelter, food, all of these things are covered, like connection, you're going to see less and less of that. And I think the sickness of the United States is like mainly that you're not taking care of your weakest, and that creates this sense of like, desperation. Like I have been to some of the poorest countries in the world, Guatemala being one of the poorest countries in the world, Cambodia being one of the poorest countries in the world. I've never seen as much poverty than as in the West Coast of the United States.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I was more afraid of my life. I was scared going through the homeless camps, but I did it because I felt like I needed to experience that to really understand what's going on. And
Wow.
That's just the showcase of like, we're not taking care of our weakest. That's a really big showcase of like the society we're living in. And that's what we are trying to be better at. And like, we're not perfect, right? Like nobody's perfect. We're just trying our best. And like, that's also what I see a lot in culture of the United States, that people just see, oh, we're occupying Guatemalan lands and you get off the land. And like, well, there's more nuance to all of this, right? Like I, for one, didn't intentionally like, I'm going to take the land. We're buying land from a German guy. So there was already, if anybody was like a blame, there was a German guy. But also if you ask my local friends, they're like, otherwise we grow coffee and avocados there. We have enough coffee and avocados. We're happy that you guys are bringing something different and giving us, like, we were training people how to grow oyster mushrooms here. It's also a slow process, it's like such a white, like colonialist mindset to come and like, we know what's best. We're going to give you what's best for you. Just listen to us. We're going to solve all your problems. And it's funny how in some communities in the United States that are like led by indigenous people, that mindset can still very much live like, oh, we know what's best for the people in Guatemala. It's like, well, come here first, talk to the people, see like where the trauma is residing and how we can slowly help. And one day I hope we can serve the sacred mushroom medicine to local people, but the church still has too much of an influence here.
Really?
I don't want. Yeah, there's the church, dude. There's an evangelist church, so they drink and they party, and that's the worst for the Mayan population here. It's like way worse than all of the gringos or extranjeros that are coming here and trying to find a better life. And that's also sometimes overseen, kind of lost the initial point here, but like, whatever.
That's okay. It's great.
Yeah,
No, that's fascinating.
riffing.
That's fascinating. I would have never thought that in Guatemala that there would have been a stigma around sacred mushrooms just because of the Mayan history, because of that is fascinating. And I mean, are there any locals that consume or participate?
What a lot of people don't know is that from the 1970s till 1996, there was a civil war here between the Chapins, the Guatemalans of Spanish descent that run the government, and the Mayan population. And there's a really good book that talks a little bit about that time before. It's called Secrets of the Talking Jaguar by Martin Patel. And anyhow, like the United States funded these death squads that then came to Guatemalan Mayan villages and tried to eradicate that culture. And that happened for like more than 20 years. And it happened about 25 years ago now. It stopped. So anybody over the age of 30 here has that aspect of it. And like the Mayan, like the culture still lives, they still speak the languages. The women still wear the clothes, the men not so much anymore. But yeah, there was a definite victor, which is the Guatemalan government, and they put their ideas of what is best for the Mayan people on it. So there are some people that are breaking free from that like stranglehold of the Catholic Church, and there's definitely some people that are embracing Mayan traditions more and more, especially on the other side of the lake in the communities of Santiago and San Pedro, which are a bit more ancient. This is all refugee countries. Like people didn't initially live here until very recently, until the Civil War, where they just wanted to get out of the populated areas. And yeah, there's so much history that people don't know, and I'm still like learning a lot myself. And Guatemala doesn't have a specific law against mushrooms. Nobody's ever been prosecuted, but there's a very umbrella law that anything that gives you a psychoactive state can be penalized. So that's kind of how they control. But there's still a culture of lynching here, which is very weird. And
Really?
like if you go against, that it has happened several times. We've here with people that like it's mainly between families. There's main families here that have their community, and they have disagreements. And sometimes when a physical incident occurs, then the other family takes hold, and that's because they don't trust the government here. So they're not going to go to the police for this. They figure it out themselves. And that's all the little parts, there's so much that we have to take into account, and like there's never an easy solution, because every micro, like even this little town is so different than the other town that's maybe 2 miles away. There's a different culture, there's a different hierarchy, there's a different ideas of tradition, and like this change, because if we want it or not, we live in a global society right now.
Mhm.
You see it everywhere in the world, right? Like we're not going to be able to keep what is a true American, because like I think the United States is also the only country that actually prints like official government papers in 2 languages. So like everybody is becoming multicultural, and even here, and we can resist that, or we can like slowly learn how to live together, which I think is the more harmonious way. And that's that point. And it has a very tragic history here, and I think mushrooms, and especially their traditional use and culture, could help a lot. But I'm not the person that's going to push that right now. I think like it will take a generation. It will take some leaders that hopefully we can help empower. That's that. But like, I'm not going to be the white person telling people like, do this, eat these mushrooms. Not what I want to be.
So are you all perceived as kind of a fringe group, or is there any stigma against you that you know of, or how well known is it, your work with sacred mushrooms in the indigenous community there?
So people know that we grow mushrooms, but like we don't really grow sacred mushrooms. Like I grow a little bit in my own, like very hidden for personal use, but that's not what we want to be about. But like we're known to like grow oyster mushrooms and reishi and turkey tail and educate people about it. It's a small town, people know about us, and like we have pretty good connection. There's also a local mushroom cultivator here that we are working a lot together with, and are empowering more and more to also step up as a teacher. She grows oyster mushrooms for a living. It's a slow process, and we're also not the only extranjeros or gringos here. There's a whole community here, and that's like also doing good stuff. We work together with this nonprofit organization that's run by our friends at Attilan Organic called Wellkind, that are putting a lot into education. There's a community center here, which is being supported by a lot of the extranjero community. Then there's we live right next door to an ecstatic dance temple, and he gives 50% of his profits to the community and gives free access. And like it's taking a time, but now like one of the guys that's taking care of our lands, he just showed up there on Sunday, and he was just dancing and like he's been listening to electronic music. It's just really fun to see that change happen slow. And yeah, we're trying our best, but like it's hard. You don't want to force anything, right? And that's the main thing. And we just try to have good relationships and give what we can. And I think that's the way forward. And always show respect by like, we are really appreciative of being able to call this our home, and feeling safe and welcomed in many ways, and being able to empower like our local friends, and to extent learn from them. And like I personally love the local language. It's really beautiful. It also has a lot of the and the Dutch and Hebrew have, so I feel very much at home sometimes here. Yeah, it's a journey. That's all I can say. I'm like young, I'm 28. I see myself coming back here the rest of my life, and I hope to leave this piece of land a lot better than how I encountered it. And that's all we can do in the world, right?
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned how important it is for you, especially being a Leo rising, to live to live in community. So what does that mean to you? Like, what is your community, living in community? What does that mean for you?
It's like, it's living in our natural state of being, right? We're not made to, and especially COVID times has forced a lot of us to be alone in our rooms and just be with ourselves. And that's not natural. That's just not who we're meant to be. We're meant to live in groups and work together. And is a psychedelic experience on its own, because we're all going to reflect our own bullshit back at each other. And like, we're all going to project our traumas that we have with our family or loved ones from the past onto each other. And those are moments that we all can use to grow, and growing pains are never easy. But I really believe it's better to actually go through this and like learn about ourselves and learn how we can interrelate to other people. And we call it a house of mirrors. It's like you're constantly being reminded of the imperfect parts about yourself. And if you don't decide to listen and like act on those imperfections, then community is not for you in that moment. And that's also completely cool. But for the people that want to do the work, there's no better work than community. And yeah, like that to me is powerful. And especially a mushroom-based community, we just all have people that love mushrooms. We have a girl that's teaching like myco construction with myco materials. We have right now we have this course is starting on Sunday, and we've like got in this super epic mushroom cultivator, Paul from Fungi. He's based in Walla Walla. But like it's just so fun because like we're all passionate about mushrooms, and to be able to attract other people that are passionate about mushrooms, and we can like light each other's flames of passion and knowledge and growth. There's no better way to learn anything than to learn anything in community. Because we have accountability, we're reminded of the things that inspire us. And I think that is the true gift of community. And it's not always easy. Like we're all still learning. We're also still learning because now we have this online business, but then we also have this physical community, and like both need very different traits and take a lot of time by themselves. So we're trying to find that balance, and I'm learning a lot. I'm falling on my face a lot, and I'm learning a lot. That's life, right?
That sounds amazing. It sounds like what we're aiming to build at Sanctuary, the Sacred Mushroom Church that we just started. So the physical community there, what does that look like? How many people are there that are living in is it all in one house, or could you talk more about that? Like, I don't know.
They're all right here. Turn the camera.
Because right now we're going into high season when the rains stop. So a lot more people come to the lake, the spiritual tourists or whatever, because it's all getting cold in the northern hemisphere. So people are trying to escape that cold. So we also host our courses during the high season. And that gives a lot of other dynamic, because we suddenly have, like during the low season, especially during COVID times, it's hard to really define what like the community is. We grow oyster mushrooms, we grow reishi, and we do weekly workshops. But we have about 6,000 square meters of land just below me here. And we have basically a lot. We focus for long-term residents really on private accommodation, because it's really important to have your private space, and like we're like just be able to come back to yourself a little bit in community, because that gives you a lot more flexibility to actually learn and not be overwhelmed by the lessons of community. And we have about there's actually a lot of people that came in today and yesterday. So I'd say like 13, 14 people are living with us right now.
Wow.
And part of community life is just like keeping the mushroom farm growing. We're giving 10 pounds of spawn to oyster mushroom spawn every week to this local mushroom cultivator. And then we're also growing our own oyster mushrooms, and we're doing experiments with reishi, and we're even growing shiitake here, which is actually crushing it right now, and that normally didn't happen before. So we figured something out. That's a lot of it, but not everybody. Yeah, not everybody has a mushroom cultivator, but a lot of people are just excited about mushrooms. And
what are you growing shiitake?
We have a lot of.
What are you growing shiitake on?
We have shiitake lugs, and we have we just sterilize wood chips with cacao shells, actually. So a lot of people use wheat bran in the United States. We don't have a post address here, so we can't order stuff online. So that's one of the big challenges that we already faced.
Right. What kind of logs do you use? I'm so curious. What tropical?
Because we're 69. We're like a mile high above sea level here, so we don't really have tropical conditions. It gets actually quite chilly.
Okay.
Have mango. Mango works really well. We sometimes get shipments from the coast. But avocado, Paul brought some oyster and reishi cultures that he foraged in Washington State, that he foraged from conifers. So now we have actually a lot of pine here, and pine is really accessible, and that's what we're going to try to experiment more with. But But right now we just sterilize we soak and sterilize wood chips with cacao shells. That's like our version of the master mix a lot of people are using for wood loving. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. So cool. That's one of the great things about mushrooms is that there are so many types of community, or there are so many varied interests that can centralize around mushrooms, right? Like you said, you've got someone that's into building supplies, you've got the cultivation, you've got the culinary, you've got medicinal, you've got remediation, you got the psychology, the spirituality. There are so many parts of the human experience that the mushroom encompasses, that it's like it really creates or can create a very dynamic community.
Yeah. And you see people from all like facets of life, like, because we're quite close to the United States. We tend to draw a lot of people from the United States, but we also people from Venezuela, Brazilians. We have local Mayan like working with us, but we've never had like actually people staying over. We have had Guatemalans as well, and just like fascinated to see people from all over the world being interested by all of these different aspects. And like ethnomycology is one of like I'm a big fan of history, so like history with mushrooms just makes total sense, right? So I'm really into that, and we like an actual ethnomycologist that works with Fungi Foundation come and like share her knowledge. She was really passionate about puffballs, so we all learned a lot more about puffballs and their use in Native American cultures. And this way we all learn from each other, right? And although, yeah, everybody comes from different walks of life, and everybody comes with their own stuff, and you're never going to be friends with everybody, and that's
right.
Like because we're all like have that same passion, and not to be able, we're all still human, and I really believe that we learn from the more like challenging connections more, because we have this common goal, right? That's why religion started in the first place, because like you can work together with people that you don't have common background with, right? Yeah, but you both, like if you look at, for example, the creations at Göbekli Tepe near Turkey that like were built before we thought that there was actually any form of civilization, that was just pure praise to their form of divination, and that could only work together by having massive tribes and have the same. It was mainly focused around cattle, I think. So we can also talk about like how that like cattle-based like big temple complex where nobody was living was probably because cattle grows out of the dung of cattle, Psilocybin Says, especially in that area of the world. So the main thing is like if we have this common idea that we all like we're what some people call fighting the same fight, it's really easy to work together with people, even though we might interpersonally not like align without understanding that common goal or common passion. And that's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you and I finally got to meet in Jamaica. I'd been watching you for a while as well, and I always thought you seemed like a really cool guy, and I was really excited to get to meet you there. I would have loved to have been able to experience some of your travels around the island with you. I would love to hear some about that. Like, what was your experience like as you traveled around the island and met different mushroom people? I mean, it's so cool to see what's happening with Jamaica around psilocybin and mushrooms in general. And as another, mycophile who's deeply immersed in it, that was kind of my stomping ground. So yeah, tell me about what your experience was like there.
Yeah, it was also great meeting you, dude. It was, for anybody who doesn't know, I think Eric and I were part of the most interesting panel of a very adult conference with a lot of sharks and money-hungry people wanting to capitalize on the psilocybin industry. They kept calling it industry. I'm like, stop, vomit. But fun discussion with some senators, I think, or like
I think we upset some senators there for a little bit, maybe.
I just talk shit, and like the senators think about like actually making it possible. But like I talked to her after actually, and she ended up being a really nice person, and actually taking camera, but she was like, okay, can you please send it to me? Before. I've not worked on it yet, but like Jamaica was interesting. I definitely met a lot of people that were there because they see the emerging psilocybin industry and they want to capitalize. They want to be the big market leaders. And that was weird. No, I was just thinking, it's like I see so much trauma here, especially in Montego Bay. It was just sad to see so many people in the street, and it's like just seeing how much open, for one, the Jamaican people seem to be for working with psychedelics because they're so open to weed. And I think there's just this interesting like connection between cannabis and like mushrooms, where people see that, oh, they're both natural, they're both very abundant all over the world, so they must be safer. And so I think that was very interesting that almost nobody was talking about like how can we help more people in Jamaica, more like how can we make as many mushrooms that we then can export to the United States and Canada to make a fuck ton of money. Yeah. So that was that. I also saw, I was also like, again, I'm a white man and I try to reach out to a lot of people, and like I got like mixing. Not everybody wanted to hang out all the time. I tried to visit some farms, and I only visited your farm of the therapeutics. Yeah. But,
I know you went to our farm, but I didn't know that was the only one you were able to get to.
I went to like a really, really small Haven crew. They actually had a really solid, nice like crew of Jamaican surfers that they were training how to grow Cuban.
Yeah, I really like the Haven guys, man. I've been getting on good with Ivan particularly, but several of them. Yeah, and Alex, the chemist. Yeah, good guy.
They have really golden hearts, and that they right now are in a publicly traded company that comes with some of the things that, for the reason that I never want to have a publicly traded company, basically. But the crew and the heart was there, and like they were training some really cool people how to grow mushrooms, and that was cool to see. I was actually staying at there. I wouldn't call it a farm, because there's some thing against people wanting to grow manure in Jamaica, which I thought was funny because there's so much manure supposed to grow manure for some reason. I'm like, guys, I was very like not so impressed with most of the farms. You guys were just starting off, right? And you had Kevin, and like it's gonna be like, I already saw some new pictures that I think I either saw on his Instagram, and it looked so much more refined at that stage already. But I thought it was funny to hear all these people talk about like IP and like, oh yeah, we're not gonna show you our secret that those coconut core and like lemongrass. Like, guys, I know. Like you have some secret that nobody else. So I thought it was really I tried to meet with some of the communities, but everybody seems to be a little protective of their IP and that kind of thing. But I was able to meet, like, travel around. I spent a lot of time actually in Kingston, more than I anticipated, and because I had this idea to make this tiny documentary series, so I was interviewing a lot of musicians and other people that are like part of the movement in a way, and trying to normalize this in Jamaica and all over the world. And I thought it was really interesting to hear lots of perspectives from like people like more on the ground, or people that are more interested, or people that are just like musicians and can say whatever they want to say. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a lot of potential, and I think like I still believe so, and I would love to continue to visit, because I really believe that Jamaica has the potential to become this beautiful, like, tropical psychedelic paradise, but there's a lot of kinks in the roads that we have to overcome. And first off, it's like, make it more accessible, make it more affordable. Like, I thought it was really sad that there's like, because right now it's an emerging market more so than an industry, but I know that growing psilocybin is really cheap. So having a lot of high prices, like right now, that's you're moving on the first movers, but like making it more accessible is just making it cheaper. And most Jamaicans were just not able to afford it. And like, just seeing like more people focus on training more Jamaicans. That's why I kind of want to do a course there, or like make something so we can like help the population, because that's basically what I felt when I got there. It's like, this is beautiful, this has a lot of potential, but I want to help. And that's where I want to go. But also, I'm like, I have a tendency to overfill my cup and have 5 cups in my hand and try to do too many things. But if anybody's in Jamaica and wants to like help facilitate like a public system, if anybody's in Jamaica and wants our online mushroom cultivation course for free, and you're like born and raised, then contact us, because like we just want to help.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's
beautiful. Well, there's several connections that I think that I would like to facilitate that we can help with that. I don't know if you know the Diaspora Psychedelic Society, Omar down there. He's doing a lot of kind of stuff for the populace, and even through Sacred, we're working through with Omar to some extent, but also on our own, we're working to have a more accessible offerings for the islanders themselves, in terms of not just access to psilocybin, but access to a treatment, to actually being cared for. So, like you said, there's so much trauma there, and to just unleash psilocybin, I think that it's extremely safe, and there's not a lot to be concerned about there, but there is a lot of really deep trauma there that people will need some serious support. There are a lot of people anyway that will need some real support through and after their experiences. So that's really the cost bottleneck, is trying to be able to pay for people to spend 8 hours with somebody and then show up as a support for them. So developing kind of community-centered group programs where people can have lower cost access, and it's all happening, man. And I'm really excited about your approach. And there are a lot of people who are very looking at the industry and wanting to see how much money they can make out of it, how much they can squeeze out of Jamaica before it's just too accessible. But at the same time, there's a ton of people that are really trying to do good on the ground for the people there. And I'd love to connect you there. I think there's some real opportunities with our farm, Sacred Therapeutics, for you to, train people, help in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'd love to have more conversations with that. Can you talk a little bit about this intersect of therapy and recreation? That was kind of the big sticky point. Senator Longmire, great lady. I'm kind of joking that we pissed her off. I think there is an understandable kind of public face that has to be put on from someone who's in her position. And when you get away from the cameras and the microphones and you talk about it a little more reasonably, then you get a different feedback, you get a different conversation. But the trigger that seemed to spark a lot of the heated dialogue on that panel we were a part of was this idea that mushrooms just can't be a free-for-all. You can't just have recreational mushrooms. It's got to be a therapy. It's got to be really contained and properly administered and monitored. What do you think about all that?
So I think the Netherlands, again, is a really good example of this, right? Because on paper, and then this is like a very low estimate, before in 2008, when mushrooms became illegal and truffles were being sold, the Netherlands was selling more than 500,000 portions of mushrooms every year. And most people were tourists, like 85% in a city, right? So that's ultimately shitty set and setting. Yeah. And let's say that only 50% more. So we're talking about 750,000 doses of psilocybin containing mushrooms.
Wow.
In 2 years' time, between 2005 and 2006, there was, so that we're talking about 1.5 million doses sold. There were like 23 cases of people ending up in hospital. I think there was only like one death. Most of them were actually not Dutch. Like, I think there was only 1 or 2 people that were Dutch. Like, don't quote me on the numbers. Like, it's been a while that I actually went over this. But like, I know I'm close. I know it's not more than 30 people ended up in hospital in 2 years from 1.5 million doses sold.
Wow.
That's really crazy, in a city. So we have those numbers. So we can say it's like, okay, yeah, it needs to be in this controlled environment, and we're going to get more healing out of that. We're going to have more experience, better, like, healed or thriving human beings out of that. But like, it just showcases that it's so safe. Even the World Health Organization showed that like mushrooms are the lowest, even under cannabis, for hospital cases all over the world. Right. And trust me, a lot of the world are consuming mushrooms recreationally, at parties, at horrible settings. I know people that take them at family gatherings and giving, and silly human beings, but like we end up often being completely fine in the end. The main thing is education, right? Because I really believe that recreational, like my brother and mentor and like one of our teachers, Julian Vane, says this really beautifully, recreate oneself, right?
Yes.
It's like have fun and you're recreating yourself to focus on the things that are potentially not fun. And I really see the healing power of that in it. But again, we need to talk and teach about proper set and setting. And if up to have these community centers with not even like really full-on trained professionals, if there's a lot of really beautiful mother-like women in Jamaica, for example, that would be so easy to train to be psychedelic, at least counselors. You don't have to be a therapist, but like people just need somebody to talk to. Give them a list of 20 questions they can ask and let the answers come out of it naturally. Because the people are the medicine more than the psychedelic and the where we need to grow and what we need to deal with in ourselves. And we need guidance. We need community with this. Community is the key to everything. Knowledge and community. It's not that hard. I think also we should like, why are we living in a world of fear, right? Like we're talking about like climate change and all the things happening. We're living on top of the world right now. We're living in the best time possible and people are just hiding away in their houses being afraid. But we're like, right now we have the technology. The world is like still super livable. Soils are still good. We know it's all going to change probably in the next 50 years. So let's just enjoy it now instead of living in fear of death, which is inevitable. So that's what I got into it, because that's ultimately every fear comes to fear of death, right? Because people are just afraid that like during our little interaction with Senator Longmore and like her friend, this idea came up with this girl that was bought magic mushrooms and jumped off a building or bridge in Amsterdam. Part of this was true. This girl was also talking about suicide for months before this. This girl was also on alcohol, lots of alcohol, cocaine, MDMA, lots of other stuff. And she was 17 years old. So there was no like education. She got it probably from a friend who was 18, because they do check your ID in these, especially if you're French, in these stores in the Netherlands. And like one case of somebody that shouldn't have been able to buy it, shouldn't have gotten it. If they went themselves, they would have gotten a no. Also, our health organization, they mentioned like, their advice was not to illegalize this, just more education. They even talked about like what is called a resting period. So you go and you pay your money and then you have to come back 2 days later. So you have time to integrate this. And that's, I think, why growing magic mushrooms is actually the best option, because you have to wait, dude. It's going to be 2 weeks if you grow kit. If you're going to start from spore, it's going to be like 6-7 weeks to actually get your fruit. You're going to have a lot of, you're not going to be like an impulse, like, oh, I'm going to eat straight off the cake right now while I'm driving my car. That's just not like little sense to me. But hey, what do I know? I'm just like some weird 28 hippie living in Guatemala. I don't have the answers.
Oh man, I think that's beautiful. I got chills throughout that whole spiel there, buddy.
That's wonderful.
What the fuck? 20-something hospitalizations out of 1.5 million doses. I actually took mushrooms in Amsterdam before they were illegal, and it is a horrible setting to take mushrooms in. But you know, you do okay. You get through it. You know. Man.
That's
so what's your? You mentioned that you have a little like personal grow under your bed. What's your personal practice like with sacred mushrooms?
It used to be under my bed when I was living with my parents, and I didn't tell them yet.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not listening.
But they have a special place on my altar, and I say hi to them every day. I put intention in, like some I grow for an intention of microdosing, some I grow for intention of like sharing and having fun at parties, because I really believe dose is so important. It's so under or overlooked, because my preferred substance at a dance party is 0.5 gram of mushrooms. That's it. Some caffeine tea. I'll dance all night. And maybe I'm not like super against alcohol, like a little bit of like one beer or something, and I'm like on top of the world, right? And like that's what we have to do with education. So I like to grow my mushrooms for different intentions, and Yeah, like there's a lot because we grow in monotubs, which is basically a shoe-sized box where you like add your substrate, which is often coconut coir and manure and vermiculite, and we add gypsum and calcium hydroxides and some other supplements that like most people don't understand. But that's all you need. The coconut coir you can buy in garden stores, vermiculite you can buy in garden stores, gypsum, calcium sulfate you can buy everywhere, calcium hydroxide you can buy everywhere. That's all you need. You don't even need the calcium hydroxide and gypsum, actually. You just only need coconut coir and vermiculite. You're going to have success.
Yeah.
And like, well, the mycelium we grow, what's the process? Like one of my friends and also a really powerful teacher, Darren LeBaron, he was also at the conference, by the way. He says the ceremony starts when you inoculate your first like agar plate. And he says the ceremony starts when you buy the food for the mushrooms, which I thought was even more, there's so much intention because you're not just like, you know what you're growing your mushrooms for. If you're growing them for money, they're not going to taste good. They're not going to give you good experiences. They are very finicky like this, at least in my experience. Maybe I'm just too sensitive, but I've never had better experiences from mushrooms that I've grown from start to finish myself. And they have a very special place in my house. I like to show them off, and everybody loves to see them when they're fruiting, and it just makes everybody happy. Every time I see them, they look happy. And I like to sun dry them myself personally, but we also have a dehydrator. And then they just have a spot also on my altar. Like if I have too much, okay, then I have to store them in a different place. But they're not something I utilize, right? They're allies. They're something I work together with. And that's my process. And like seeing them go through all of that by themselves and with support, and then they're spreading the spores, and then we spread their spores, and they have opportunities to grow elsewhere. That's to me is an alliance more than like, hey, we're growing this for money or for anything else that I want to get out of this. What can I get out of this? That's a lot of mentality that we have cultivated in our Western societies, instead of like, hey, how can we work together and how can we create symbiotic relationships?
Yeah. So I really love that you bring up the whole process and it starts like before we're just putting the mushrooms in our mouth. Something a lot of people just don't think about yet. Yeah.
So I'm interested in your thoughts on the commercialization of psilocybin. What does a healthy, positive commercial market for psilocybin look like that considers this energy and cooperative aspect?
Ooh. Tough one for me, dude. So I think if anybody grows mass amounts of mushrooms, they're going to be so abundant that like either give them away for free to people that don't need them or can afford them, basically, but definitely need them. But also like what's the reciprocity, right? Where are we giving back to the indigenous cultures that were carrying that knowledge if in the first place? Like the Mazatec people are really struggling right now, and I don't really think that's like, how I see the world is we're all going to be having friends that grow their own mushrooms, and that's where we get our mushrooms. And we do that in exchange for, I don't know, if you grow amazing cannabis, that's what you exchange it for. If you give amazing massages, that's what you exchange it for. And that's to me feels like really in tune with like what the messages that I've got from the mushrooms. But this market that is going to occur, that's inevitable. So what I'm seeing is like, there's going to be these consumer products and they're going to get people into these mushrooms. And they're going to be powerful and they're going to have healing experiences. And I just hope that the people behind those organizations will do it in the sake of like sharing the medicine instead of making a lot of money. But again, people are really good at making a lot of money and they're really good at spreading like and optimizing and doing all the things. And I don't want to see it, but like it's gonna happen. If it's gonna get legalized, it's already happening. So far, the people that I know that grow a lot do it with the right intention. But also like anytime I grow with this is a really good one. We've had some people pass by that grow that or have used to grow a lot of mushrooms, and anytime they thought like, I'm gonna make some money out of this, they got contamination. I thought that was such a funny example of like that's how that works. And I don't think that we should sell them in stores. Like you can just walk in and walk out with mushrooms. I don't think that's the best thing, especially not in cities. I really like, I think Timothy Leary was the first person to like say this, like a form of drug passports I've thought about before. Like you need a fucking driver's license to drive a car, right? Like kind of similar in many ways. And I think we should include alcohol in that too. And we should include nicotine in that too. And all of the other substances that we right now take for granted because they're just normalized by our society. But then again, that's giving more control to the states, which I'm not like fan of. So I like, in an ideal world, people just growing their own because it's really easy, and like, or selling grow kits. I think we should legalize that everywhere, because then you have the time, then you see the process, then you're not making a decision out of the blue, and you have your time to like work together and like put your intention in your own medicine. That's how I would like to see it in the future. But I got people bring me consumer mushroom chocolate products all the time, and they're great. If I didn't know any better, I would buy them. They look great. So as long as if you know where, it's like buying anything. As long as you know where your product is coming from, if you are aligned with their vision, just be a conscious consumer. We're all going to be consumers. We're living in the age of consumerism. Right. Just like, don't get your mushrooms from somebody that's obviously in it for the money. That's it. Like there's going to be the small mom and pop magic mushroom like businesses with really beautiful design. Just buy it there. That's how I'm going to see it. Like it's going to pan out anyway. Not in my ideal world, but that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's there's a whole lot to consider. I think the intention behind it is the single most important consideration. I've certainly struggled with selling psilocybin commercially, particularly black market when we were doing large scale black market grows, because you don't have the ability to really educate your consumer. You don't have the ability to have that connection and for people to see, oh, this is the person that's creating this powerful substance that I'm consuming, which is really, really important, particularly with mushrooms. They are little sponges of energy and of nutrients. And that's one of the reasons that, when we started this farm in Jamaica, I was the brand that was kind of my baby, because I want people to know from go that this is a sacred thing. Even if you're buying it for a dance party, or if you're buying it in a chocolate bar or whatever, like you're actually consuming something sacred. This is not just shrooms, So really trying to infuse that intention from go. But then like you get into the thing, like everything has to make money and people got to get paid and you got to pay bills and electricity. And there's all these things that go into it. So, you want to create something that is accessible to as many people as possible, but you also recognize that, there's all these inputs and there is this demand and there are people who have excess resources that can pay more. So to be able to try to subsidize so that people who don't have the resources can still have the access, it's a lot to try to juggle, but I think it's really crucial that we do if we're going to bring this sacred medicine to the masses. We've got to do it, or we should do our best to do it consciously.
I think that's a really good point. And I actually had recently a really good conversation about this. Like, yeah, let's tax the rich. Let's make it expensive for the rich. And then let's make it cheap for the people that can't afford it, because there's a lot of people in the world that can afford a lot of things. Like you can either pay $50 to ride a car from here to the airport, which takes 5 hours, or you can get $1,000 helicopter ride that takes 20 minutes. People will take that helicopter ride, right? So like we need to have, like, why I really appreciate sliding scales, and we do all of our webinars, for example, sliding scale, and most of it's just like $10, an hour and a half of knowledge. But like actually I see like most people are actually paying $30, and I'm like, that's the kind of market that we like need to go through. And like I think we can, especially with the digitalization of money and crypto, we can get to a point that even in a store you can decide to buy something in sliding scale and like have that like kind of taxation come from your own ability to understand, like, hey, I actually have to give this to this epic thing, and not just always try to go for the cheapest thing around. And that's something new to us in our society and community as we understand it today. So it's going to come with some kinks again in the roads. But I really believe that if you're one of those organizations that's either charging $5,000 for a couple-day magic mushroom retreat, or you're charging a lot for your magic mushroom product, like look at like what you can give back to the people that cannot afford that. And that's something that we're currently working on. Like we want to offer a course in Spanish. I speak enough Spanish to get around, but my Spanish is not good enough to teach about mycology. But I'm trying to enable people that are starting, like, look, like, that's just reality. People do not speak English in general in the world, have less money. So make it affordable for them and make it even free for the people that are around us. And I think that's the business model that we all need to, like, if we have space and we can do it, just give more. Like, let's see what happens, because there's a rainbow sayings, like, the more you give, the more you got to give. And that's true in everything, I think.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
That's why I love your work as well with like Sanctuary, dude. Like, I think like that's the next step for a lot of where we're going, is just having these, because if you want it or not, you're going to be an institution, but like having institutions that make this medicine and this work accessible and safe, because that's the big thing right now, right? Like, it's still illegal in most places in the world. And I understand that a lot of people don't feel safe. And with this beautiful loophole of freedom of religion, we can get that, because like I believe. I mean,
loophole. I don't like the term loophole, because it is a right. This is like the mushrooms around the cave walls, man. This is our spirituality. This is the temples, like you said, are built around the cattle fields. This is who we are. And so I very much appreciate that in the United States, that it has maintained that freedom of religion, particularly in places like Kentucky. There's a lot of irony that the more conservative states are the ones that have the, support this kind of freedom. But it's crucial. And like, this is who we are. So to be able to just like, yes. And so like, that's another thing, is like access, right? I thank God for all the research and all the evidence that's proving the safety and efficacy of psilocybin as a therapeutic. But like, that's not the ivory tower that it should be delegated to for the rest of, into perpetuity. Forever. And this, the individual right to your own spiritual growth is, I think, the container where this actually belongs.
Yes, I do. Thank you for bringing it up and like shining some extra light on that, because I do fully agree. And I do also think that like, it's just our right in general. We're like, especially America. I love how you call yourself the land of the free. You're like the less. But like, you can't even decide what you put in your own body. That's like, what the fuck, guys? That's like how can you decide that that's like our right to freedom? And like, yeah, like, it's our right to have this as a religion, but I think it's also our right to just do whatever the fuck we want with our consciousness and our
absolutely
like religion for that, in my opinion. But that will come, it will come. If like systems need to break, they will break. We live in this illusion of continuity. We always think like Romans, like, oh, the Roman Empire is going to be there forever.
Yeah.
You thought they were going to be forever. It's nothing lasts forever. Also, not the Empire of the United States.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of indicators that it's on the downslope. I think we all can see.
The last emperors of the Roman Empire. You look at your current presidents.
Yep. I know. If you look at the history of the Roman Empire, the decadence, and just all the opulence, and now America. Yeah. Yep.
A little familiar.
Repeat.
This has been such a great conversation with you. I'm so glad that we met and that you've been on Psilocybin Says. We always ask everybody at the end of a podcast, what does psilocybin say to you? So we're going to ask you that right now. What does psilocybin say to you?
So many things, but I guess the main thing that's coming to me right now is to really tune into yourself and like see what that person is, and like be that best person of yourself, because you're worthy. you're welcome. You have something to give to the world. You're unique, you're powerful, and like you're here for a reason. And that's the main thing that psilocybin keeps telling me is like, yeah, teaches me to love myself and all my mistakes, the path, and like all of my traumas. That's all part of it, you know, and it's all welcome. And that's the main thing that we're missing. We were living in an egotistical society, but we don't even love ourselves. So that's what psilocybin says to me. I'm welcome. I'm loved. I'm here.
You're a great example of that, Jasper. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a valuable thing when people have a strong personality, and you talk, you know, if it's ego, if it's the Leo in you, whatever it is, man, we all should love ourselves. We should all love the gift that we are to the world. And you really, I see you exemplifying that just by being yourself, being passionate, and spreading the joy of being a human being. So just really grateful to have got to meet you in Jamaica. And I think that there's more for us to do together, my friend.
I think so too, man. Thanks for inviting me on here. I had such a blast. It's been a while, and like I feel I was able to talk from the hearts today, which is the only thing that we all can hope to do every day in our life, you know.
Awesome.
Thank you for recognizing that, and thank you for your amazing work on normalizing this and like just being open about it. So many people are afraid, and like you're the best showcase of like this, you know, there's gonna be kinks in the, again, I said this all the time, but like there's gonna be kinks in the road, but like you can only share what you really, really believe with force. And I've just seen you do that only, and that's admirable. And I hope more and more people will find that courage to speak up and like let their true self shine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Jasper, until the next time we get to meet again, my friend, stay well.
Yeah. And wait, one more thing. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. Share your info.
FungiAcademy.com. Fungi.academy on Instagram now. Our main Instagram of 200,000 people shut down by the system. So that does not, so follow us on any. Where else? @Jasperius. That's my personal one on Instagram. Just Fungi Academy. Just like we're the only one in the world. Fungi Academy.
The Fungi Academy.
Awesome.
All right, brother. Much love. Much love.
Much love.
All right.
Bye-bye.